Folks, welcome to Series 1, Episode 2 of Mark and Kirsty banging on about Microsoft 365. I'm Mark Thompson and this is Kirsty Brown. You can see on the screen here. Today we're going to talk about Teams. So, remember this first series is just about just an overview of each app. We'll just give you a few minutes on each one and then further down the line we'll talk about things in a lot more detail. Okay, first of all, Teams. So for me, folks, Teams is Microsoft's hub for teamwork. In a lot of places that Kirsty and I work, it's like this central thing with all these other applications coming off it. I want you to imagine your whole working day in one place. So your chats, conversations, everything that used to be emails comes into Teams as well. Your files, tasks, third-party applications, websites. Think about whatever project you're working on, whatever team you're working on, that whole working day all in one place. In a nutshell, that's what Teams is for me. Kirsty, is there anything you'd add to that?
I would, other than my Christmas tree is absolutely fantastic and your Christmas tree is really pitiful and it's quite embarrassing.
Kirsty, there's no budget for Christmas trees on this podcast. Next year, though, if it's going well, don't start me. Next
I
year,
have nothing to comment about Teams other than that tree.
so, folks, next year we'll have done a lot more stuff on Teams, and I might even have some budget for a Christmas tree. All right, Kirsty, why don't you share your screen for the good people and just give us just a quick screen tour and just a quick whiz around Teams. And of course,
Okay,
while you're just getting your screen ready, remember, folks, we will go in a lot more detail later on.
can you see my screen, Mark?
Yes, I can. That's the question
Brilliant.
that you get on almost every presentation and meeting, isn't it?
Even with that big red box
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
around your screen, it's still, can you see my screen?
yeah, yeah. You get presenter anxiety.
You do. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of the screen and then Mark's going to do all the nice bits. So I've got the boring bits, so my apologies. So the first thing is then when you do open up Teams, now I'm currently on the online version. So again, you may have an desktop version, which obviously means that you've got somewhere on your desktop an icon that you can click onto and that will open up that version. I've just opened this version online. As you can see, I've got my tabs here at the top. But what we can see is now Teams. And this is exactly the same format as what you'll see whether you're on online or desktop. But if I look on the left-hand side of the screen, you should then see, for example, I have got all of my icons here. And this is what we call the app bar. Any application that you think that you might need to use here within Teams, do have a look on the left-hand side. So we start with activity, we've got chat, we've got Teams, we've got calendar, calls. We've also got the three dots, the ellipses. Whenever you see three dots in Microsoft, it basically means there's more information. And when we click onto that, please note, all these other applications are your personal applications that you can view. And as time goes on with all of our team sessions, we will go more and more into depth with regard to these icons. And then lastly, we do have the apps icon. So this is what we call the apps bar. Then just to the to the right of this, we've then got the rail. Now this rail will change depending on what icon you have selected on the app bar. So if I select now activity, guess what? My rail changes and it changes with regard to what I've got selected here. If I go to chat, if I go to Teams, that rail will change. Now I'm going to currently go onto Teams and just explain a little bit more with regard to the rail when you're on the Teams icon on the app bar. Now here you'll notice I've got three main headings. And these are called Teams. Now what a lot of people don't realise is that you don't have to do any houseworking with regard to this rail, as in get Teams onto the rail. As soon as somebody makes you a member or an owner of a team, or you create a team, that team will automatically populate. So if I created a team and then added you into as a member, this would automatically now appear within your rail. Now, whenever a team's created, you will have a team name, we'll have a team name, and we'll also have what we call the general channel. And note I say channel. I suppose another word would be folders, but here in Teams they call them channels. So I will always have then the team and the first channel, which is called general. And we always say to people, try and use the general channel as the channel it's the place where everybody would go within that team. So if I want to tell everybody we've got tomorrow off, everybody in the team's got tomorrow off, I could put that information into the general channel because that affects everybody within the team. If I wanted to say, for example, I've got a pay rise and Mark hasn't, although I think everybody needs to know, it's not really information for the whole of the team. So there, I would not put that information into the general channel. So then the owner can then create more channels. So if I might be working, or we might be working on a project called Project X, we might have a Project Y. We could have a finance channel, an admin channel. And what we do openly encourage is that when you create your channels, you create these channels with a business output. So I wouldn't have a channel called Kirsty and I wouldn't have a channel called Mark. What we would have is channels that everybody in the team's involved in, or they can go and see what's going on with regard to that channel. So in this case, we've created 3 extra just training test channels. We've got an admin channel, we have a season 1 and we have a season 2. But the owner of the team will be able to create these channels. One thing I will say to you is if the owner has allowed members to have the rights, again, when I say that, you've got to watch out. And the reason being is they can go into settings and they can put a tick to say that members have the rights to add channels. If that has been ticked, then also members can add channels.
That can turn into chaos, can't it, Kirst, when
I
anyone can
know.
just do what they want. And people,
I know.
like you said,
Yeah.
someone will go, I want a Kirsty channel, I want a Mark channel. That's a really good tip there, Kirst, to make sure that's not turned on.
Yeah, I'd agree. But you see, there's some people who say, oh, we always switch it on. I personally wouldn't, but hey ho, because I just think it's a free for all and then everybody does what they want to do. Whereas to me, the team is about what everybody wants to do, what everybody wants to see. But yeah, I agree, Mark. So that's your team and that's your channel. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. Now, one thing I will say to you is when you hover over a team, you will get the ellipses. If I hover over a channel, you will get the ellipses. It is not time in this session to go through that, but again, we'll go through those in a little bit more detail on another session. Now, what you will also see then to the right-hand side is what we call the main arena. And the main arena, as it's actually called, is the main part of the screen. And so if I went into any channel, that would then show me the main arena here on the right-hand side. Now, just note, the owner of the team will create what we call tabs at the top. Now, if you look here in this general channel, all I have is posts and files. Every channel has a posts and files channel, tab. And the reason being for every channel having a posts and files tab is a post is about a conversation. And Mark mentioned this earlier, and I think this is really, really important. Have you or are you sending each other in your team emails? You've then got the faff. Do you delete an email that you've received? Do you forward an email? Did you get reply to all on that email? Did someone miss you out? And you've got all of this housekeeping and what I class as faff with regard to Outlook. Whereas if we'd kept this in Teams, we have no housekeeping at all. So if I want to let the team know, let's say ask them a question, I want to perhaps give them some information, rather than now going to Outlook, I can now go to posts. So if I was talking about Project X, guess what? I would go to the Project X channel and I would click onto posts and I would add in my conversation. If it was to do with Project Y, I can go to the Project Y channel, for example, and again go to posts and add in a conversation in here. And we'll discuss this, Mark and I, in another session in greater detail. We've also got files. Just be aware, if I've got a file that I want to share with everybody in my team about Project X, guess what? I'm not going to put that file into Project Y. I'm going to go and put it into Project X. So again, I would go to that Project X channel, go to files, and I would add in a file. So the beauty of this is now, if I'm sitting there and I want to get all the information about a particular project, Project X, I can now go to this one-stop non-shop channel, come in here and see everything about Project X. And just to finish harping on about that, because Mark really is probably rolling his eyes at this point, is one thing I would say to you is think about if you've got a new member of the team. Now, years ago, or it could be still happening for you in your organization, but what used to happen for us is that if you got a new member of the team, somebody used to have to go and email them, send them links, make sure they're all up to date with all the projects that are running that they're now going to be involved in as that new member of the team. We don't have to worry anymore because we literally give them the link to the team. We tell them about the channels, what channels they might find interesting, and then we let them on their way. And then they can go into posts, they can go into files, and they can literally read everything about that project to get right up to the latest piece of information. So think of that really useful. So that is the app bar on the left-hand side. You'll also see that you've got the rail, you've got your main arena, and you've also got tabs. So that was I would class the boring bit, as in there's nothing majorly exciting there, but we need to know it. Whereas guess what? Mark's now going to tell you a bit more exciting stuff. So over to you, Mark.
Okay, Kirsty, I'm not sure how exciting it is, but it's super duper helpful. You see people navigating around Teams, trying to find where they got to, where something is they looked at a few days ago. Kirst, top left hand corner, hover over the forward and back buttons for me. Just give that a second, and there you go. Look, whatever you're looking at in Teams previously, it will show you that, and you can see you get the full history. So there you can go forward and back, you can jump. That's really super helpful. Okay, now let's say that something's not in there. You want to search for something. So Kirsty, in the top bar, let's have a search for hair, as in hair on your head, and let's just press enter and get those results. Okie dokie. So up there, folks, you can see. Do me a favour, Kirsty. Just click on messages for me. This second time, you can see there. Oh, sorry. Just where it says next to search. So we've got all messages, people, file. Click on messages for me, and now we can just drill down a bit more on the type. If you just click on type for me, Kirsty, you can see there. If you know it's a chat or it's a channel, you can filter down, filter by teams and channels. Who was the message from? The date range. Did they mention you? Did it have some kind of attachment? So, folks, if you know anything about the chat or the file that you're looking for, and you probably do, that's why you're looking for it, with just a little bit of practice navigating around here, I think you'd be able to find it. Okay, let's have a quick look at settings. And we are going through this quickly, folks. Each of the things on the left-hand side, activity, chat, teams, calendar, all these things we've shown you, these are probably like 15-minute episodes on their own, so we are going quite quickly. Kirsty's clicked on the ellipsis, top right hand corner, and now she's going to click on settings. Okay, so on general, so there's some nice settings in here. You can change your theme, your chat density. That's quite a controversial one. Some people like it compact, some people like it comfy. Make sure you got your language right. That there's a right for where you live, and work. Scroll down for me, Kirst. I think there's one in here that I quite like. Okay, so yeah, some options in there. I guess the language is the main one. Click on privacy on the left for me, Kirst. Let's see what's in here. We've got any highlights? Okay, so it's a good one in here. You can manage your priority access. So when you're on Do Not Disturb, you want your boss to be able to break through that and get and to be able to contact you. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Oops. Let's just go back in. Okay, so back into privacy. Keyboard shortcut to unmute. So you want to call, you can do the control and spacebar. You hear people say, "Oh, I couldn't get off mute." Just get familiar with this shortcut, folks. Control and spacebar, and you will come off mute nice and quickly. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Oh, optional connected experiences. This is a funny mix of stuff here. So this gives you the ability to have like GIFs in your chat. Really like that. It also bundles in the URL preview, which I hate. It's got a big bar that pops underneath your message, and it tells you a little bit about the big box that appears telling people a bit about your link. I personally think that URL preview is rubbish, but I don't turn it off because I then lose the GIFs as well. Anyway, they're kind of bizarrely bundled together. Notifications on the left, please, Kirst. Okay, folks, this is where you might spend a little bit of extra time. Okay, so let's say you've got all your notifications sorted out, and you think you got it about right. How about you get an email once a day, just in case you've missed something? So I really like that daily email. Teams and channels, mine's often on custom, just like Kirsty's is, because you fine tune your channels as you go along. But we'll probably do a whole episode on notifications. But go in there, folks, and have a look at chat, meetings, people, and it's really worth you spending some time getting that right. Accessibility, please, Kirst, on the left. This is fairly new over the last month or so. We didn't used to have an accessibility section in Teams at all, which in hindsight seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Sign language, maybe you've got someone who signs in your company. You can add a list of those people yourself, and those will get priority on your meetings. Always turn captions on if you like, and turn off the animations if you want. Okay, let's just do one more, Kirsty, because we're going to do this properly one day. Let's click on Files on the left-hand side, please. Okay, so depending on the way your Teams is set up, and if you have a company laptop, you'll probably have another option in here, and that is to default to the full version of the application. I personally, even though I'm a bit of a Teams fanboy, I don't like my files opening in Teams. I'm okay with the browser from a reading point of view, but if I'm editing, I much prefer it in the full version of the software, and you'd get that third version if it was, say, a work laptop. Also, coming any day now to you, and you probably already have this, is the ability to choose your download location for your files. You can even tell it to ask you every single time, so when you're downloading a file, you can move it around. Okay, Kirsty, I think from a quick introduction, bear in mind we're going to go through all these things in much more detail, maybe on a great big masterclass for Teams. I think that's probably about there for that. What do you reckon?
I agree. It's a good introduction to Teams if you've never really seen the screen before.
Yeah. Just to reiterate a couple of things that Kirsty said. So I like the fact that everything is in one place. Think about context switching. You work on different projects or with different teams. When you go to another channel or another team, everything about that thing is across the top. It makes it much easier to get your brain to quickly jump between projects. Another point that Kirsty made was onboarding people, about how easy it is to onboard someone. I'm working with some teams at the moment, and some with the Inform team, and I'm working with their clients, and one area has got a lot of turnover. So when they come in, they just get pointed to this new area. But for me, what's really important as well is that the knowledge stays in the team. It's not going in, because they don't use email anymore for their internal communications. That when someone moves, they don't take all that information in their Outlook. It's not in their chat apps. It all stays in the team, ready for the new people. And I think that knowledge retention is a really important point. Kirsty, is there anything else you would add about Teams before we start wrapping up?
No, I need to open up my Advent calendar, so now I think we should stop it here.
Advent calendar o'clock. Folks, thank you very much for watching this session. If you haven't done already, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and to the podcast, depending on how you're watching. And we'll see you next time. What's next, Kirsty? What's our next session?
OneNote.
OneNote. Next time, folks, we'll see you for OneNote. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.